Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Tapping In webinar. The world is going a little bit crazy outside, and as you may notice from the background here, I'm actually streaming from a different location. I've made the decision to isolate as a result of decreased lung capacity from being quadriplegic, basically. Anyway, today we're doing part 5. We're looking at accessible tourism and events and why it is worth your investment. So, let us get into it. 30-Foot Drop acknowledges the traditional owners of country throughout Australia. We recognise the continuing connection to land, waters and community. We pay our respects to them and their cultures and to their elders, past, present and emerging. Must always remember that under the tarmac, concrete and coronavirus, this land is, was and always will be traditional Aboriginal land. Also would like to acknowledge the Department of Communities, Disability Services for funding this and many other initiatives like it. Without their support, so many projects such as Two Wise Monkeys would never see the light of day. And as a community, we'd be so much poorer for it. This workshop is part of the Realities and Advantages of Access and Inclusion Grant awarded to 30-Foot Drop as part of the Information Linkages and Capacity Building Grants of 2018 to 2019. Please excuse the background noise. I'm not self-isolating on my own, so my family is also around as well. As I said, these are strange days, strange times, but hopefully I can still put out a quality product for you all. Quick bit of housekeeping. Okay, unfortunately we don't have the resources to monitor all of our live streams during these sessions. So, if you want to ask any questions or interact with us at all, please head to www.30footdrop.com.au/live. There you'll find embedded another version of this live stream, along with chat boxes that you can use to chat with me live. We will be covering a lot of information during these sessions, and it's going to be over a short period of time, so we recommend that people take what actions they can to minimise distractions. But if you're not able to minimise distractions, fear not. We also record our sessions and upload them to our YouTube and Vimeo library. You'll also notice if you go to the 30-Foot Drop live page that there is a tab there to take you to a playlist of all the old videos. So if you want to go back and review because you missed something or you're not able to attend one of the live sessions, everything's there, okay? And whilst you're there, check out the 30-Foot Drop Digital Resource Library. Okay, we will be referring to different studies and papers done today around statistics. You can find a link to the originals, all in our digital resource library. We've got some amazing stuff there. I really encourage you to have a look. At the end of the webinar, we also have a short survey for attendees to complete. Please, can you take the time to fill this out? It's 6 questions, 30 seconds, and it will help us immensely. Okay, so you'll find that on the 30-Foot Drop live page, and down the bottom you will find, down the bottom of that page you will find links. And so this is webinar number 5. Allow me to quickly introduce myself. I am your Wise Monkey for today. Hey, my name's Ben, and 30-Foot Drop is my brainchild, pretty much. I am one of 2 presenters within the company, and I am See No Evil as a Wise Monkey. I am See No Evil because it is very obvious that I have a disability or impairment. Okay? No, it's very obvious that I have an impairment. I mean, it's very hard to ignore the fact that I have wheels attached to my butt. Okay? And it's obvious for all to see. Now, I am See No Evil because hopefully with the information you take away from these webinars, you will see no evil about disability and impairment. My co-presenter Lisa, who does some of the other webinars, she is Hear No Evil. She is Hear No Evil because she has an invisible impairment. I'm not going to ruin her story because I think it's amazing, but basically if she didn't actually tell you that it was there, you would never even realise. And hopefully by the time you've gone through these webinars, you'll no longer hear any evil about impairment. Now, if we stop and think about it, there's actually normally 3 wise monkeys, isn't there? So, who's the third? Who is going to be Speak No Evil? That'll be you guys. Hopefully by the end of watching this series of webinars, you will hear no evil about disability and impairment. So, outline and method. What are we actually going to cover today? Well, first of all, we're going to have a look at some stats that will... Oh, sorry. First of all, we're going to have a look at some most recent Australian research so that you can understand the size of the successful tourism and events market and how much they can be worth. Then we're actually going to have a look in the segment to examine the characteristics and habits. Okay, because in order to cater for a population, you need to understand what their needs are. So that's what we're going to do. Is we're going to have a look at that. And to finish off, we will do an open forum session. And I'll explain a little bit more about that in a second. So how are we going to do this? Well, our teaching method is fun, interactive, honest, open discussions. That's what 30-foot drop is all about. So hopefully you find this entertaining. Okay. Now you'll realise that there is very little written content on the slides. That's because you're here to interact with me. Okay, not the screen. And to help facilitate this open, honest conversation, I really encourage you guys to head to www.30footdrop.com.au/live, where you can ask me any questions. But for now, let's do a little quick terminology review. Okay, we're doing this because I will use certain words that may confuse you. So this is to ensure understanding, to make it all run a bit smoothly. So the first bit of terminology we're going to look at is the difference between disability and impairment. I'll start off with an impairment. Okay, an impairment is an injury, illness, or congenital condition that causes or is likely to cause a difference of physiological or psychological function. Okay, to simplify that, okay, your impairment is how you operate differently. It is your difference to the rest of society. So it can be looked at like your medical diagnosis. So my impairment is that I'm a C5 quadriplegic with post-traumatic stress in remission. Okay, that is my impairment. It's not my disability. It's my impairment. And it's not my disability because a disability is the loss or limitation of opportunities to take part in society on an equal level with others due to social and environmental barriers. It is, as the word implies, something that makes you unable or disables you from being able to access or participate. Okay? So, for example, steps outside your shop disable me from being able to get in to spend my money. Okay? So your impairment is how you operate differently, and the disability is the barriers that are put in the way. Okay? So that's disability and impairment. Hopefully people have understood that. If not, please head on to the 30-foot drop live page and ask me the questions there, and I will answer them for you as we go. The next quick bit of terminology is the difference between access and inclusion. So a lot of businesses think of access and inclusion as one homogeneous word, okay, but it's not. It's actually two completely different things, and unfortunately a lot of it gets missed out. So to start off with, access, okay, it refers to the removal or reduction of barriers, both physical and attitudinal, to the participation in the activities and functions of a community. Okay, simplify that. Access looks at the physical world around us. Okay, it is looking at the very core things, the things that you can actually put a name and a number to. Okay, as a result, a lot of this is what businesses mostly focus on, is access. Okay, because it's easily assessed by checklists, Australian standards, and it's very, very easy to do. And because it's an easy win, many businesses focus on it, but you're missing out on the other half of the equation, and that is inclusion. So, inclusion, where access is physical, inclusion is psychological. Okay? And it's a state of being and is a process whereby every person who wants to can participate fully in all aspects of an activity or service. Okay? Now, inclusion is not impairment specific. It actually covers a wide range of differences. Okay? So, when I say every person, I'm talking irrespective of age, impairment, gender, religion, sexual preference, or nationality, who wishes to can fully participate. Okay? Now, what inclusion means to me is knowing that I will turn up somewhere and I will be taken seriously. That people will listen to my opinions, that they are worth something, that they are not going to just have me there as a tokenism. Okay? It's when you feel fully part of what is happening. Okay, so hopefully that has made sense to everybody. And just making sure that we don't have any questions that have come through yet. No? Okay, brilliant. So once again, if you have any questions, head to www.30footdrop.com.au/live. Okay? But for now, let's get into the good stuff. Alrighty, apologies for that, everybody. Just a slight little hiccup. But back into it. Here we go. Okay, so the stats. Let's have a look at some of the stats. Now, the Southwest is a major tourism destination in WA. As a result, I'm going to focus a lot on using this region as an example. Okay, so to start off with, okay, these following stats have been taken from two different sources. The first is the Southwest 2017 Visitor Fact Sheet. Okay, and the other one is the contribution or economic contribution of tourism to West Australia's tourism regions. Okay, these are two papers that are amazing and a really good source of what we look at. Okay, so here's some of the stats for you. During 3 years from 2014 to 2016, our region had on average 2.49 million overnight visitors. Okay, so this is 2.49 tourists coming down here to the Southwest who are staying overnight. So that doesn't include people who are down here on day trips. Yeah, so that's quite a lot of people. Okay, on average, they stayed 3.6 nights each time they came down. Okay, that's pretty impressive when you think about it. Now this one here I love, okay? The direct and indirect contribution to the Southwest region's economy in 2016 to 2017 was 14%. 14% of our economy down here. That's a fair bit, especially when we consider mineral projects that we have going. The only area in WA that's higher than this is the Coral Coast. Okay, if I remember right, theirs was up around 21%. Okay, so tourism plays a major factor in our economy. And on top of that, okay, almost 1 in 5 people in the Southwest are employed as a result of tourism. Okay, that's huge. So that's the overall tourism market in WA. Let's have a look at the accessible tourism market. Now, the following stats have come from a report called Accessible Tourism. Accessible tourism in Sorry about that. My kid was coming up to ask something. He's going to have to wait for a little bit. Where was I? That's right. The following stats have come from a report called Accessible Tourism in Victoria and Queensland. Okay, it was put together by Tourism Research Australia and in conjunction with each state's tourism departments. Now, unfortunately, there is no research that has been released that focuses on WA alone. Okay, but this report also focuses on Australia as a whole. Okay, so I use the stats from that and I extrapolate from Victoria and Queensland as well, mostly Queensland because I find that their tourism market's fairly similar. And one thing to remember with all of these numbers is that this is domestic tourism only. International visitors are not included. Okay. Now, obviously, a lot of these stats are going to be sort of up in the air as we go, but it's a good place to start. So, this study, it estimates that the size of the accessible tourism market in Australia for overnight and or day trips, okay, is about 7%, or 1.3 million people Australia-wide. Okay, so this estimates to around 150,000 in Western Australia alone, okay, who require accessible tourism services, goods, okay, 7%. The thing is that, like most of us, this 7% rarely travel alone. We rarely holiday alone, okay? So once we take in average party sizes, okay, which were part of the previous papers I was talking about, okay, you've got an average party size of 2.45 for overnight travel and 2.62 for day trips, okay? So that multiplies out to 17%. So 17% of our population need accessible tourism and events experiences. 17%. It's huge. Okay, the estimated annual expenditure for this segment comes to approximately 8 billion Australia-wide, okay, which equates to about $916 million in WA, and about 163 million dollars in the southwest. Okay, so it's a sizable market. Okay, we've got a fair few people going through there. You know, that 17%. That's basically looking at myself, my wife, and my child going on holiday. Okay, we're going to make sure that we go to accessible places because we all want to be able to participate. So that's the market itself and how big it is. Okay, there is quite a fair bit there. Now, unfortunately, there is also, as with most cases when it comes to people with impairment, a segment of us that are being underserved or not being properly served. Okay? So this report noted that there is a segment of Australians with an impairment, okay, and this includes adults who are caring for a child with an impairment, who are currently not travelling, but who would likely travel with certain industry improvements. Okay, so we're talking accommodation, transport, and current technologies. Okay. In Western Australia, this segment is estimated at around 34,000 people. Okay, which is approximately $225 million that we're missing out on WA wide. Okay, $225 million market. That's huge. Okay, so when you take that into account with the current expenditure of $916 million WA wide, okay, that is an increase, a potential growth of over 25%. 20%. Okay, huge. Okay, so not only is it already a big market, but there's also a growth potential there as well if we do it right. Okay, so let's help you try and understand this market. Who are they? What do they need? What do they want out of their holidays? These are all really important questions, and questions as a tourism provider you need to ask. You need to know. So here we go. First up, although people with impairment generally have lower incomes than average for the population as a whole, they should never be considered as low income. Okay? Now, there's a couple of reasons for this. The first one is that more than 1/4 of those who identify as having an impairment are in the top 2 income categories. Okay? So this is a disposable income over $900 a week. Okay? So a quarter of this market have got fairly high disposable incomes. The other factor that needs to be taken into account when trying to consider this is the introduction and the rollout of the NDIS. So the NDIS is having an interesting effect on disposable income in this community, because the NDIS is suddenly covering a lot of things that were never covered under the state and previous state systems. And as a result, people aren't having to fork out of their own pockets for essential items. That means that they have more disposable income. Okay, pretty amazing. So something to really look at for that. So they should never be considered low income. Sorry, need to turn the page. Okay. In the Accessible Tourism Survey, they found that approximately 55% of this segment have a mobility issue. Okay, that is their impairment. They're not as mobile as normal. So, and this includes people who use mobility devices and those that have difficulty moving more than a short distance. Okay, so this is really important when you come to understanding the market. If you want to tap into this market, you need to make sure that you're offering physically accessible, okay, and inclusive experiences. Okay, because if you don't, you're going to miss out on over half of this market. 55%. Okay. Of those in the segment that don't travel at the moment, 23% is because it's too stressful. Okay, and 22% is because it's just too hard. Now, once again, understanding the market. Stressed customers or customers that find doing things too hard, they're not going to spend money. So that's pointing at the tourism industry and saying, hey, how about we simplify things here? Okay, try and get these people who are currently not traveling, let's make it easier for them. Okay, that way it's easier for you to get a hold of their money as well. And yeah, so let's make it easier. And the last one is that, like most Australians, travel by people in this segment is for leisure most of the time. Okay, now what was noted is that visits to friends and relatives is often preferred over visits to unknown locations. And this is because knowing the layout of the accommodation helped with planning and resulted in a less stressful trip. Okay, so once again, pointing to let's try and make it easy and less stressful. What are things we can do? Well, having layout maps, having 3D walkthroughs, making the information easier to find, making sure that your place is accessible, and not ignoring this market. These are all really important things that you can look at, and hopefully you're starting to get an idea of the understanding around this market. Okay? So, travellers with impairment. So that's sort of some of the stuff that you need to know. But travellers with impairment, they also share many characteristics with the broader population. Okay? So looking at those previous ones, and I'll go back just quickly. Okay, looking at these previous ones, you may think, oh, geez, I'm going to have to change absolutely everything. This is impossible. We've got to make so many changes. We're going to have to do things completely different. It's not true, because these travellers, they share characteristics, okay, with the broader population. So the first up is the tools for decision making. Okay, they're the same as the wider population, with internet search coming in first and word of mouth second. So marketing is not something you need to change. Maybe making the content more accessible is, but the actual marketing channels and that, they don't need to change, okay, because we're using exactly the same stuff. The next is the activities. Okay, the activities, what travellers want to get out of their holiday. So travellers with impairment, they are after reconnection and unwinding. Okay, because these are core needs for all Australian travellers. So approximately 40% of travellers with impairment seek to seek to meet these needs of reconnection and unwinding through either more active, more emotionally, more intellectually stimulating experiences. Okay? So, if you already offer that, it's not something you've got to change. Now, although travellers with impairment on average do slightly fewer activities, okay, we do have other issues that do occur. Many of the experiences that we participate in are the same as the broader travel population. Okay? So these are things like eating out, visits to the beach, nature, cultural experiences. Imagine that, we'd want to do the same thing as other humans. Okay, sorry, sarcasm aside. You don't need to change your core product. Okay, if you already have a successful product, it will be successful for people with impairment as long as you make the slight tweaks that we discussed before. And lastly, we tend to stay in the same types of accommodation and visit the same destinations as the broader population. Okay? So if you're looking at attracting this market, you don't have to build a complex somewhere completely different. Okay? You can have it anywhere that's normally a popular tourism destination spot. Okay? So if you're already offering accommodation, why don't you retrofit one of your rooms to be an accessible room? If you have a restaurant in a good tourism area, why not make it accessible so that people can get in? Okay, these are all things. We want to be in the same places and participate in the same things. Okay, and we're willing to pay for it. But if we can't get into it, then you're not getting our money. Now, last thing that I would like to point out is that when it comes to people with impairment and tourism, there is a common misconception that the majority of this 7% of people that I started off with at the beginning are elderly people, the grey nomads, the spend the kids' inheritance trips. This is a common misconception, okay? Because in this survey, in this research, okay, only 14% of the people who took part in it were over the age of 65. Okay, the rest of them are under that. They're people like me. Okay, 35 years old, quadriplegic. I love going on holiday. So hopefully that's given you guys a bit of an understanding of the accessible tourism and events market and why it's worth investing in. Now, for those that aren't hanging around for the open forum, thank you very much for watching today. I hope you've enjoyed yourself and that you've learnt some new things. For those that, and if you are leaving, please take the time to go and fill out the survey. www.30footdrop.com.au/live. Okay, go to the survey there. It's tapping in part 5. 6 questions, 30 seconds, helps us immensely. For those that are hanging around, doing a bit of a Q&A time. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys about, what's the time now? I'll give you until 11:35 to ask any of the questions that you have. Now, to do that, once again, you go to the 30 Foot Drop live page and use the chat boxes there, and you can ask any questions. Now, the questions today, they don't have to be about what we've been discussing. They can be on absolutely anything. Okay? So, please head there, do that. I'll talk to you in about 5 minutes. And we're back. Okay, so let's have a looky here. It would appear that we have no questions for today, but that is all good. Look, I hope everybody has enjoyed themselves, and honestly, in this time of madness, stay safe, stay healthy, look after yourselves, look after each other, and catch you in the next one.